it's pretty safe to say that Jordan Poole's had a pretty disappointing individual season. But what exactly is going on with Poole's game on the court? How did he go from being the 6th man on a championship team to now the 6th man on one of the worst teams across the league? Now, one of the biggest underlying issues with Poole's game right now, as well as over the past 3 years, has always been his efficiency. Jordan overall has never been the most consistent outside shooter, and that problem has become very apparent in Washington. Per 36 minutes this year, Poole is shooting over 8 threes, and he's making just 30% of his total attempts, which is the 3rd lowest percentage for anyone who's taking over 8 threes. Now mechanically, I think Poole has a solid shot, having balance, good hand placement on the ball, and rising up from his pocket to set point in one smooth motion. I think Jordan has definitely proved that he has the ability to both quickly get hot from behind the line and generate and make some really tough shots.
Wizards to end the first half. They're up by 7, they're up by 10. Jordan Poole for 3.
But this leads us to one of Poole's biggest problems as a shooter, which is going to be his shot selection. Jordan plays like a guy that has the ultimate green light, which I don't think should be the case for anyone who's shooting 30% from 3. Poole has a heavy shot diet of these tough contested step back threes, which he loves to crank off early in the shot clock. You'll see Jordan here playing with the ball in transition, and watch him push the ball to his left hand and drop down into a drive. But when his initial attack gets walled off, Poole's gonna bump and separate back behind the line. Now this is a good shot for maybe 4 or 5 players across the league, but for Poole, this isn't the best look for him with a full shot clock. Now, according to Synergy Sports, Poole right now is shooting below 22% on all his contested jump shots, but those percentages almost double on all his wide open jumpers. But this now leads to another big issue, which is going to be Poole's fit in Washington. One of JP's most underrated skills is his ability to move off the ball. Poole has great mobility and lower body strength, being able to quickly blast off screens or shift to open space, to then settle his feet and rise up for a stable jumper. Plus, Jordan could also leverage his outside shooting to create cuts towards the basket.
To get him going. Great pass inside.
Jordan being able to move and create offense off the ball was enough by itself to make him a great piece in Golden State's offense. And I think that was a big part of why they signed him to a pretty big contract. But jumping forward to this year, the Washington Wizards don't have the personnel or talent to run the Warrior style of offense. I think Poole this year has had a lot more responsibility as an on-ball creator, which is why I think both his shot quality and shooting percentages have taken a massive dip. Now the Wizards in spots have tried to get Poole working off the ball, but the issue has been both Jordan not consistently knocking down the open shots he gets, and also the Wizards' other players not having the same gravitational pull of a Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. Take this play for example. You'll see the Wizards have Poole come up to set the screen, then slip out towards the wing. But the defense from here doesn't really respect Tyus Jones as a deep scoring threat. So they can just simply sag off him and switch out onto Poole as he pops out, which leads to Jordan catching and being forced to create another pull-up off the bounce. Now, like we all know, Jordan was supposed to be much more than just an off-ball scorer. For a while, there was a belief that Poole could be more productive as a primary ball handler, but so far this year that hasn't been the case. If we take a closer look at Poole's numbers in pick and roll, he's right now generating under 0.9 points per possession, and that includes points he's creating from both his scoring and passing. And to put that in perspective, the worst offense in the NBA right now is generating just under 1.1 points per possession. So if Poole's playing in pick and roll, you're pretty much going to have the worst statistical offense in the NBA. Now obviously, Jordan's inefficient shooting affects his productivity. But when we look at Poole's scoring and creating from below the 3, there's a whole new batch of issues that pops up. The first thing you'll notice is that when Poole turns the corner off these screens, he doesn't really put a ton of pressure on the rim. Instead, he loves to settle for these difficult runners and pull-ups, which you can probably guess are not efficient shots for him. you'll see him here snake the ball back towards the middle. And from this spot, Poole has the space to attack the shot blocker's body and create a layup or foul by aggressively attacking the rim, but he instead floats out and settles for this really difficult high arcing fadeaway. One thing you'll notice on these clips is that Jordan is not comfortable keeping his dribble alive in the paint. Instead of taking 1 or 2 more dribbles to really get into the teeth of the defense, Poole instead likes to pick up and settle for these difficult floaters. You'll see him here catch and take 1 dribble downhill, and from this spot he's got this defender in jail and all this open space to attack into. But watch how Poole is going to pick up and settle for this runner at the free throw line. Another big issue I see with Jordan's game is going to be his lack of strength. When JP does decide to be aggressive and attack into the deep paint, he's not a very stable driver. Poole will commonly allow physical defense to push him off his driving line, and he also doesn't have the stability to initiate contact, which causes him to get thrown off balance. You'll see Poole here get into this left-hand drive, and notice how he initially gets the outside driving angle on his man, which leaves him and Reggie Jackson playing one-on-one to the rim. But watch how Poole is unable to initiate or absorb contact, causing him to get pushed off balance and having a shot erased. So because Poole doesn't have the physicality to carve out driving angles, he commonly has to revert back to his floaters, or these difficult pushed out extended layups. And that leads to Poole also being inefficient as a downhill scorer.
Jordan Poole might have lost his balance.
Now I do think Jordan finds some success when he's able to isolate or play with space on the perimeter. Poole does have a really shifty handle, and if the defense does give him a cushion off the bounce, JP for sure has plenty of tools to break down the defense and create some high quality shots. But if the defense decides to extend out and get physical with Poole, he is very prone to cough up the ball. And a lot of this comes back to Poole's inability to absorb contact with the rock. You'll see him here get to this push cross in transition, and as soon as he gets bumped by the defense, Jordan immediately loses control of the ball. So overall, Jordan is not a reliable shooter from 3 or the mid-range. Plus, he doesn't have the strength or physical tools to be a consistent downhill scorer. So that puts a ton of pressure on Poole's playmaking, which I don't think has ever been his calling card.
It'll be taken away. Larry dropped in.
Now, I'm not going to say Poole's a bad passer, because he for sure has a good feel for making the right play, and he's really unselfish. And I also think Jordan this year has made some big improvements with his decision making and overall ball security. Per 36 minutes last year, Jordan averaged the 7th most turnovers across the league, but so far this season he's really cut that number down. But the truth is, Jordan has always been a traditional score first 2 guard, and I think that played a big factor in Washington also signing Tyus Jones coming into the season. So with Poole's game, I think it all really boils down to his scoring. I think he's got to find ways to be a more consistent shooter, while also rounding out his game and becoming a more effective scorer around the basket. But Jordan Poole is still only 24 years old, and I think he still has plenty of time to improve his game, and maybe his best days of basketball are still in front of him. If you want to support this channel directly, feel free to check out my Patreon for exclusive breakdowns. But regardless, I still appreciate you stopping by, and I'll see you on the next one. The kid's here.